Hi, I'm Cameron Bonzi. I'm the Vice President of Marketing with Coast of Maine Brands, and I am here with Richard Hodges, who is the founder of ReTreeUs. And Richard, 10 years, it says on your website, 10 years you've been doing this. That's a long time. And you started out doing the school orchards, and now you're doing back to school gardens. So let's start with the orchard part of it, how that got started and how it's basically laid out and what you do for the schools.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and I like the change. You changed to a school. You're changing your background.
Yeah, well, we're talking about
Awesome.
orchards, just so much Zoom, that play around with stuff. So, yeah, this actually is orchard photo taken years ago at Durham Community School in Durham, Maine, where I grew up. So it's really neat to get back there and plant an orchard with students and have that legacy at the school that I went to for elementary school. And these trees are much bigger now. This was taken years ago. But yeah, so ReTree started out planting orchards in schools 10 years ago. So we're celebrating 10 years planting orchards in schools. It started out, just doing a couple orchards while I was working 7 other jobs, and just in the last few years been able to work full-time on it, and we're able to do a lot more orchards. And yeah, with help from folks who believed in us, like Coast of Maine, and you've been supporting us for years and helping these trees get really high quality soil to grow in, which makes them really do so much better. We've been able to grow and even expand our programs to support school gardens, and it's something that I've been involved with a long time. So aligning school gardens to the school calendars is something we've added on to the orchard program.
That's awesome. And then so when I look at the orchard program, and I'm looking at your newsletter, your most recent one, and I'm just kind of going down through and developing some questions here. So this year you have on here 13 orchard locations were prepared. I think it's 14 now. But that's you prepared 14 orchards.
Yeah, so there again, it takes a planning to get these orchards happening, especially in schools where there's a lot of red tape here and there. But
oh yeah, no, that's got to be a lot. So
yeah, it takes a lot to plan it. So we mark out the orchards with students. We talk about where each tree would do well. We talk about microclimates, and we flag the locations in the spring of where fruit trees can go. And we talk about, okay, would a peach do well here? An apple, a pear. We talk about spacing of the trees. So then the flags are on the ground. They get the approval from DigSafe and the grounds folks, and all the necessary approvals, and then students go and they lay down cardboard and compost on top of like where the flags are, and that just breaks down the soil and it brings life up through the soil. So you're actively composting like within on the ground, and so all that life that's in the compost that we get from Coast of Maine, all that biological content is mixing with the cardboard that's breaking down, and it brings invertebrates, it brings worms up through the
surface soil. Yeah,
so it actually, more than just like composting just the sod and the grass and just that top region, it actually works all the way down through the soil. So sheet mulching is the process, and it's becoming very popular for good reason, and we're all about it. My own home gardens and market gardens, they're all no-till, paper and compost. Much rather do that.
So you're preparing the orchard in the spring, which I've done with you a couple of times, and then you're going back in the fall to plant after that mulching has been done and after it's broken down.
Yeah, exactly. So we're now planting all our fruit trees in the fall. So we have a nursery at our headquarters where we're really nurturing um, these trees that we get in the spring, bare roots. So we're planting them in pots in the spring
Yep.
and in really great soil with Bar Harbor blend potting mix mixed with some other loam and compost we have, and then we're adding some nutrients with some Stonington fertilizer throughout the growing season at the right times to give it a little extra boost. And then we're spraying the leaves with foliar spray of we've got liquid squid that we've added. We also do neem oil, and we also do compost tea. And so we're taking really good care of these fruit trees in our nursery so that they're really ready to go and completely organic, ready to go into schools in the fall. So yeah, September, October is a very busy time for me, and I get to drive all over the beautiful state of Maine and drive through New Hampshire and into Vermont, and we've got some orchards going in Cape Cod, Massachusetts too. So get to drive over beautiful areas and be the fun uncle that gets to plant orchards in schools and bring all the
So
fruit.
it's Uncle Richard, and he's preparing healthy trees. That how long will it take for the tree to actually bear fruit? I know different, they're going to be a little different on each tree, but how long does the school have to wait for the tree to bear fruit?
Yeah, great question. So we've been doing this for years now, and part of why we've moved to planting all in the fall with potted trees is it really gives it like a whole extra year or two of boost. So these trees that we're planting, like peach trees we're planting in the fall, next year they're going to want to produce peaches, and we will let some of the peaches grow. You want to thin most of them because you want the tree to focus on growing in the first couple of years. So it's a hard thing to pull fruit off a tree before it's ripened, but you can still leave some of the peaches. So that's year one. Most apples take about 5 years. So
So I thought,
and same with pears, once they're already at the size that we're planting them. But peaches are ready to go just in a couple of years. So we love planting peaches, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, they say the best time to plant fruit tree is 10 years ago. But next best time is now because
yeah.
it takes time.
Do you have, I think I've asked you this question before, but do you have an idea of how much fruit is now being harvested by these schools?
Yeah, we're working to track that with the orchard caretakers that are at each school. I mean, it's growing kind of exponentially every year as the trees
Sure.
come
Yep.
to fruition. It started out a couple years ago, just 100 pounds, and then a couple 100 pounds, and then last year we were probably near 1,000 pounds. Mostly peaches still, because again, that's what's coming to fruition first. But as apples and pears start coming in, and again, this is 10 years of planting orchards in schools. Our first years we did like 2 or 3 orchards every year, and yeah, now we're doing 14 plus the back to school garden. So it's just going to grow exponentially, and so will the yields that we're getting from the orchard. So
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And in your back to school gardens, which your program makes sense, right? We know that it's difficult for schools to actually man gardens in the summertime and find volunteers. So talk about that concept of the back to school garden and how you developed it.
yeah, so have worked with school gardens for over a decade, and witnessed the same issues of summer maintenance and and teachers sacrificing valuable time in the summer to weed gardens, and kind of just with my experience sheet mulching and the love I have of not weeding and letting the soil do the work by mulching, just made a pretty easy transition to this concept of aligning school gardens to the school calendar. So in September, we bring rolls of paper that we kind of roll out with students, a couple layers thick. So it's just only wood fiber. And so there's nothing that you're leaving in the soil. And so you do a couple layers thick on top of the garden bed, and then some quaddy, typically lobster compost is what we're putting on. It's a finished compost that also has some peat in there and other good things that you can actually seed directly into.
Yes.
And so that's what we do. We put in, we lay down on top of like weedy garden beds this rolls of paper, and then like 3 layers thick, and then that quaddy on top, and then they can seed pumpkins and popping corn is what we recommend. So a full bed of popping corn for pollination purposes, and pumpkins and squash. And the idea is that that will grow throughout the season. And the kids come back in September, and the pumpkins can cure on the vine even after the vine dies. The popping corn can cure on the stalk, and they can have multicolored popping corn and pumpkins and squash. And then we deliver kale, lettuce, and spinach seedlings, like whole trays from farms, in order to plant into those prepared beds that were growing the soil and growing life in the soil over the summer, rather than growing weeds and becoming desiccated, so that they have healthy garden beds to plant into. And then that's the idea, is also that they'll have a critical mass of nutrient dense greens that are easily incorporated into the cafeteria.
It's a fantastic program. And again, we have our own Growing Good program. We also donate soil to school gardens, whether they're a back to school garden or whether they do a spring garden and have to maintain it over the summer. So the more we can do to help kids and educators and get healthy food out to everybody. I mean, we know that food insecurity itself just becomes an ever larger issue, and the fact that you're able to do things organically and make sure those kids are harvesting truly healthy food. I think it's awesome. How do people get involved and apply to the back to school and the orchards for ReTree?
Yep. So just going to our website, so ReTree.us or ReTreeUs.org. They both take you to the same place, and on there you can even put in ReTreeUs.com and you'll get there. So, or just search ReTreeUs and you'll find it. And so on the website, there's an application for the orchard program and the back to school garden program. And schools that are thinking about orchards, obviously there's a lot to think about. The biggest thing we look for in our applications are, who's the orchard caretaker? How is this orchard going to be cared for over time? Who can we communicate with to make sure the rodent protection's on in the fall, to make sure, we're scheduling our pruning workshops. So that, and there's frequently asked questions and a lot of resources on the website that folks can get involved.
Once you go to a school, you're going to the school in the spring, basically, to prepare. Then you're going to the school in the fall to plant, basically. They're doing their own harvesting. I'm assuming you're not there to harvest. They're doing that themselves, correct?
Correct.
And then you provide curriculum for the schools too?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we've developed some lessons specifically about like pollination of apple trees, but there's also, on our website, there's resources to the organizations like Ag in the Classroom, Maine School Garden Network. There's so many resources out there, and we kind of point in the right direction of how teachers can utilize lessons that are involve the garden or the orchard, and that they're aligned to learning standards. So you can really use these orchards and gardens as outdoor classrooms, and that's
Right.
what we want.
I think that's the key is to be able to use that not only to provide food, but to teach. I mean, that's what it's really all about, is getting the kids outside, getting their brains firing, getting them physical. You and I have talked before on how you've seen, one of the teachers was telling me about, seeing these kids that may not do well in a classroom, and then suddenly they're outside and they're ignited, right? They actually get this, they're using their hands, they're doing stuff. So it's a beautiful program. We're running out of time because Zoom is telling me that we've got less than a minute, probably down to 30 seconds now. So I want to thank you for coming on. We'll keep doing this, and maybe in another month or so, we'll do an update. Keep doing the great work that you do with ReTrees. Coast of Maine will keep getting you some soil, make everything healthy, and let us know if you need anything this fall.